Welcome back to America's Voice Live. Thank you for being here today. I greatly appreciate you spending some time with me. Now, a lecturer of Native American and Indigenous Studies at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, and yes, that's the proper name, Charmaine Champion Shaw created a campus hallway display entitled Understanding Christian Privilege, which was showcased from at least October through the end of the 2022-23 school year. Listen.
A professor in Indianapolis attacking the Christian faith with this bulletin board on understanding Christian privilege. The display tells students, quote, Christians receive inherent advantages. Other religions are marginalized, even perceived as troubling.
The poster also affirmed, quote, that is the heart of Christian privilege, benefits that apply to one group of people, Christians, that other groups don't receive. Here with the report is Campus Reform correspondent Jacob Stewart, who happens to also attend the college in question. Jacob, thank you for being here, first of all.
Yep, thank you for having me.
All right, so tell me of this Christian privilege this professor speaks of, because I must have missed it somewhere.
Yeah, so this professor, when she tries to connect, Christianity with various oppressions that have occurred in U.S. history, she cites a few examples of privilege being the ability to worship freely and the ability to have a Bible study at school lunch, which is pretty crazy because, those are constitutional rights afforded to everyone, not privileges. And not only that, but the Leadership Institute's campus reform has reported for years on Christians being subject to mockery and discrimination on college campuses. To give you a few examples, Harvard just had a play that depicted Judas as a gay man who falls in love with Jesus. In addition to that, Dartmouth just had a drag show that depicted a topless nun. And Polk State College recently had a professor allegedly fail a student for refusing to concede that Jesus was a myth or that Christianity oppresses women. It's really not something that other faiths are subjected to on college campuses. And it's a shame to see when these campuses are supposed to represent, diversity and inclusion, and instead use that as an opportunity to tear people down of certain faiths.
That's exactly what they do. You've got mosques, you've got temples, you've got cathedrals, you've got churches, you've got the First Amendment of the United States Constitution delineating exactly what's allowed in America, and that is to worship as you please, however you please, whenever you please, for the most part. Do they not understand? Does this professor not understand? Native Americans also get to worship any way they please. Indigenous people get to worship any way they please. That's the beauty of America. And in fact, Maryland, the state of Maryland, was formed to protect people against religious persecution. That was the single foundational principle of that particular founding state. I wonder if she even knows that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the fact that Christians are viewed as a majority in the country, and the teaching that is going into our higher education institutions is that if you're in a majority, you're automatically an oppressor. So, and it really just points out the double standard that is there. So at the same time as, the left preaches about equality and about equity, and these institutions preach about diversity, they ignore the fact that over 75% of Black Americans and Latino Americans are Christian. Recently I attended a Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration with the Black Student Union on my campus, and a minister opened it up with a prayer. That was super common during the civil rights era for people to be motivated by their religious faith to fight for equal rights. And it's funny how the left cherry picks what they want to criticize Christianity on, and then ignores.
Of course they do. Yes, of course they do. I mean, is she aware of the thousands, the tens of thousands, the millions of Christians that were put to death in places like China and Russia and Nazi Germany and elsewhere because it was not acceptable, the beliefs that were put forth by Christians? And you make some other great points. It was the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. who led the civil rights movement in the 1960s here in the United States. It was the religious collections of churches, mosques, temples, everybody worked together, and again, under the First Amendment. I mean, how could you have a professor that is so blatantly obtuse to the facts of the matter of America?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that oftentimes DEI like this, so diversity, equity, and inclusion, can be used as a veil for personal disdain for certain beliefs. And that seems to be what happened here.
Do you see this on campus a lot? I mean, you mentioned about, the diversity issues white people are oppressors. Anybody of color is now a victim, except that I saw an article just today that I think I should share with you, that it said that Muslims who are opposed to transgender ideology are working for white supremacists. I mean, that's how far they're willing to twist themselves, they being those on the left, into a narrative to accuse Tim Scott, the senator of South Carolina. He's basically a white supremacist because he's running for president. Muslims who oppose transgender ideology are basically white supremacists because they don't agree with the leftist ideology. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we hear and see in the headlines every single day anymore, isn't it?
Right. I mean, it's blatant discrimination. I mean, just because someone doesn't fit into your category or your box of what you think, that ethnicity or that religion is supposed to do. And ultimately, it comes down to the fact that, if you see things like this on campus where Christianity is being mocked, the next day it's going to be, Muslims as soon as Christianity is not a majority. It's because it's whoever is the majority or who goes against the narrative of the left that is the oppressor in their mind. So it's unfortunate.
It's the Christians. And of course, it's always Israel and the Jews who are being attacked by those on the left openly. It seems in this country as if it's open season on Christians and Jews at any given moment from the left point of view. I'll give you the last word, Jacob.
Right. Yeah. So seeing things like this on campus is definitely not something new. If a Christian tried to put up a poster professing their beliefs, as the Christian pro-life organization on our campus has done, they get their posters taken down, within a few days. Whereas a poster like this was allowed to stay up for the entire year without any backlash. It's a lot needs to be changed. And I personally reached out to many different organizations on campus trying to get a response, and I received none, which was kind of expected at IUPUI, but hopefully something will change.
Well, why would they respond to a white supremacist, Jacob? I mean, that's the mindset they have, right? Jacob, right. I appreciate it. Keep the faith, my friend, and thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you so much.